Have you ever wondered how we got here? Not just you and me, but our entire modern world, with its skyscrapers, smartphones, and superhighways. It's easy to think our era is the pinnacle of innovation. But what if I told you that the foundations of our daily lives were laid thousands of years ago by people in togas, tunics, and loincloths? Today we're retaking a deep dive into the ancient world to uncover the revolutionary ideas that didn't just stand the test of time, they built our future. Let's start with something we all use every single day: the alphabet. Before this brilliant invention, writing was a complex mess of pictures and symbols, like Egyptian hieroglyphs. It took years to master and was reserved for a small elite. Then, around 3,800 years ago in the Sinai Peninsula, a group of Semitic-speaking people had a radical idea. Instead of a symbol for every word, what if they had a symbol for every sound? This was the birth of the first alphabet. It was simple, efficient, and could be learned by anyone. This idea spread like wildfire, adapted by the Phoenicians, then the Greeks, and finally the Romans, whose Latin alphabet is what you're reading right now. From your text messages to the books on your shelf, every word you write traces its lineage back to this single, world-changing innovation. It democratized knowledge and powered civilizations. Now, let's talk about cities. Walking through a modern metropolis like New York or London, you're surrounded by marvels of engineering. But many of the principles that make these cities work were pioneered in ancient Rome. The Romans were the master builders of antiquity. They didn't just build monuments. They built infrastructure. Take aqueducts, for example. These weren't just pretty stone bridges. They were massive water supply systems, carrying fresh water for miles into bustling cities. This allowed Roman cities to grow to unprecedented sizes, supporting over 1 million people with public baths, fountains, and a functioning sewer system, the famous Cloaca Maxima. This focus on public health and urban planning laid the groundwork for how we design our cities today. Every time you turn on the tap, you're enjoying a luxury perfected by Roman engineers 2,000 years ago. And it wasn't just about water.
Ow.
The Romans gave us concrete. But this wasn't the stuff you see at a modern construction site. Roman concrete, or opus caementitium, was a revolutionary mix of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater. This incredible material could set underwater and was far more durable than stone. Structures like the Pantheon in Rome, with its massive, unreinforced concrete dome, are still standing today, a testament to its strength. Modern scientists are still studying this ancient recipe, trying to replicate its longevity for our own infrastructure projects. The Romans also perfected the arch, which allowed them to build stronger bridges, larger buildings, and of course, those iconic aqueducts, distributing weight in a way that was simply impossible before. Let's shift from the ground beneath our feet to the ideas inside our heads. Ever heard of democracy? The idea that ordinary citizens should have a say in how they are governed? It comes from ancient Athens, around the 5th century BC. The word democracy itself comes from the Greek words demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning rule. In Athens, eligible citizens could gather, debate, and vote directly on laws. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded. But it was a radical departure from the kings and tyrants who had ruled for centuries. This concept of people power has echoed through history, influencing the Roman Republic, the Enlightenment thinkers, and the founding of nations like the United States. The very act of voting in an election is a direct legacy of those ancient Greeks gathering in the agora. While the Greeks were shaping politics, innovators in ancient China were changing the world in other fundamental ways. Think about the last time you used a map or a compass. You have the Han Dynasty to thank for that. Chinese inventors developed the first magnetic compass, not for navigation at sea initially, but for feng shui and finding precious gems. They used a piece of lodestone, a naturally magnetized iron ore, on a smooth plate to find true north. It was only later that this incredible tool was adapted for maritime navigation, opening up the oceans and connecting the world like never before. Without the compass, the age of discovery might never have happened. And what about paper? For paper, records were kept on heavy clay tablets, bulky bamboo strips, or expensive papyrus and parchment. Then, around 105 AD, a Chinese court official named Xilun is credited with perfecting the process of paper making. He mashed up mulberry bark, hemp, and old rags with water, pressed out the liquid, and let the thin sheets dry in the sun. This created a writing material that was lightweight, cheap, and easy to produce. Paper and the subsequent invention of woodblock printing in China made information accessible on a mass scale. Knowledge could be copied and spread far and wide, fueling literacy, scholarship, and cultural exchange. Every book, newspaper, and notebook we use today owes its existence to this humble Chinese invention. Let's not forget the incredible minds of ancient India. Indian mathematicians gave us one of the most important concepts in the entire history of thought, the number zero. It seems so simple, right? Symbol for nothing? But before this, calculations were incredibly clunky. The Romans, for example, had no zero in their numeral system, which made complex arithmetic a nightmare. The concept of zero as a placeholder and a number in its own right developed around the 7th century AD, revolutionized mathematics. It paved the way for algebra, calculus, and eventually the binary code that powers our computers. Every single piece of digital technology you use, from your phone to your car's GPS, functions on a system of ones and zeros. That little circle, that symbol for nothing, is actually the foundation for everything in our digital age. Finally, let's talk about the law. The idea of a written code of laws that applies to everyone, a principle we take for granted, was a groundbreaking ancient innovation. One of the earliest examples is the Code of Hammurabi from ancient Babylon, nearly 4,000 years ago. It set out specific laws and punishments for everything from property disputes to medical malpractice. While many of its punishments seem harsh today, the famous an eye for an eye, the principle was revolutionary. Justice should be codified and consistent, not just subject to the whim of a powerful ruler. This idea evolved into the Roman concept of rule of law, which has become the bedrock of modern legal systems around the world. From the alphabet we write with, to the concrete in our buildings, the democratic ideals we cherish, the paper we print on, and the very concept of zero that runs our digital lives, our world is built on the ingenuity of our ancient ancestors. They weren't primitive, they were pioneers. They faced fundamental problems of communication, construction, governance, and calculation. And they solved them with brilliance that still astounds us today. So the next time you scroll through your phone or cross a bridge, take a moment to appreciate the thousands of years of human innovation that made it possible. The past isn't just a story. It's the invisible architecture of our present. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey back in time fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into how our world came to be. Let me know in the comments which ancient innovation you think is the most underrated. See you in the next video.